Okay, folks, Friday evening here, and so we can get something done. We haven't painted all week for multiple different reasons, but we're here now. And I was working on something a little different on Sunday. I think we filmed Sunday. Sunday evening, I had a little bit of time to work on something, so I decided to work on something a little bit different than I've been talking about for a while. And I have kind of a little unboxing here to do here in a moment. But I was working on some of my Gasland stuff. And this is a little premature, but, you know, we started putting some armor and stuff on here. I don't know how this is going to turn out. If I don't like how it turns out, I will take it off. But I used cardboard. I got lots of cardboard to use instead of these plastic strips. The problem with the plastic strips is it's just too thick. It's just too thick. I'm really dulling my my X-Acto knife doing it. So I decided not to do that. So you put a machine gun on here, and you put this other piece of plastic here on the back where we're going to armor this thing up. We're going to put some cardboard here on the things, and we put a little vision slot on it. It doesn't look like much, and it's not going to look right until all the pieces are on here. And then it's... and then we spray paint it black and we can work from there. But the idea is to try to do one of these and not have to take the darn thing apart, because taking it apart just takes a long time drilling these things out. So we're going to try it. If it doesn't work out, then, you know, we didn't lose anything. I had this extra vehicle kind of laying around. This is like a little test bed to try to do the quick build. So we'll see if that pans out. But there was a certain vehicle that I specifically wanted to build, and you can't get things like that in stores anymore. Just everybody's out of everything. So I actually had to mail order this particular vehicle. It's a used vehicle, and it's a certain vehicle that, you know, last year, or well, not last year, 2 years ago, I would have had no problem finding in the stores. But I had to eBay it. So this cost about $7, including shipping. So the vehicle was damn near very inexpensive, but the shipping cost, you ship anything and it's going to cost like $5 or something. So this is a particular vehicle that I swore I had one of these when I was a kid. And, you know, this is actually an old vehicle. And I think it said it was like 1977 or something like that. So we'll see what we got here. So this is not in pristine shape, and it doesn't matter because we're gonna modify this up. But this is a particular build that I'm looking for my Gaslands team, and then we'll get into the Amorites. It's an old 70s ambulance. So yeah, this is from Matchbox, and believe it or not, this says 1977. I actually knew this, so made in China. So I suspect that this actually may not have actually been in China. It might have been Taiwan. I don't know. But this is the particular vehicle that I wanted. I probably had one as a kid. That exact same build. I didn't want a more modern ambulance because the more modern ambulances don't look very ambulance-y. So this has the doors that open in the back, which I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. I'm probably going to just glue them shut. But it does have vision slots on both sides, so that allows some crew members to shoot out of both sides. But yeah, we're going to paint this thing up, and we're going to do some fun stuff with that, because there's actually a vehicle type that is an ambulance. But anyhow, to be continued. I wanted to go to the store and pick one of these up. And there's no Matchbox cars in stores, or Hot Wheels cars in stores, hardly any. Well, they may have a bunch at Walmart, but I don't know. I'm not going to go in there. So they didn't have any at Target. So anyhow, so to be continued. There's a certain build I'm looking for this, and it involves a couple things that I have here. Actually, it involves this. Let's see how this fits on here. Let me spill some of my beans. Let's take. Where's my X-Acto knife I just had here? Oh, I moved it down here. This is a resin weapon set that I picked up. And this particular one is a harpoon. We can do a better job of sanding this down. I think I don't need to break it down here. I think it needs to go one level less. It needs to go here. And this is for the Gasland thing for 2022. I'm going to build a bunch of vehicles that have themes. They may not necessarily be the most efficient, and we're going to randomly select which ones you get. And that's the one you got to play with. A little bit more. And I'll show you where it's going to go on here. It even has the perfect little square for it to go on. Bam, look at that. Perfect. So, what is this little, oh, it's got like an extra little nib on the bottom. Let's take care of that too. Better be a little bit more careful with this. This is a one-shot wonder. I blow this and I don't have a replacement one. Perfect. There we go. That's how that sits on there. So, and of course we're gonna armor some panels on it and stuff like that, and we're gonna put a ram on it as well because it's gonna be the wambulance. So it's gonna go slam into people and have a harpoon. That's the lance part. So we'll see how that works out. That's an idea that I had for one of my builds to be continued. All right, back to the real world of ancient history and not make-believe thing. All right, so let's see where we're at on the chariot. The other day we painted the chariot, and it's pretty much done, and he just needs to be sealed up. Pretty happy with how that turned out. And the horses are pretty much done as well. Just need to paint the accoutrements and things that go on them to tie them all together, the front part to the last. So this is probably ready to spray in the morning. We'll spray it down and give it the coat of the flat coat as well. And then we'll flip it upside down and do a little bit of detailing on the bottom, but there's not that much that's going to be visible. Be interesting to see how those little bronze pieces there on the bottom. Let's see if we can get it to focus. There we go. That bronze strip, how that pops after it's been sealed. Things always pop a little nicer when they're sealed on there. So we'll see how that turns out. Set that guy off to the side. Let's see where we're at on the horses. Now the horses are going to fit in like this. So we've got some straps and harnesses and stuff like that. And I think I'm going to start with a color really similar to this. So it'll tie into kind of the harness and stuff like that. And just see where we go from that. So we do need to do that part of it on there. Okay. And the general is done, right? Oh, we've got a little bit of the gown down here to do. And whatever kind of boots he has on. and the rider isn't done at all. So that's what we're going to plan on doing this evening, is finishing up all these things to so we can assemble the chariot tomorrow. That's the goal. So, James L., welcome. Well, I'll be right back. I need to get another refill thing. I'm supposed to bring a big cup with me, but I left it at work, so I have to do smaller amounts here. I'll be right back, and we'll pick up where we left off there. All right. Was that the gas? What was that Gasland stuff we saw at the beginning? Yes, it is. We're going to do more Gasland builds in 2022 for sure. I saw an article on not an article, but a post that this guy did on the Gaslands page and Facebook page. And he basically had built like 12 or 16 vehicles to run in a demo game. And we played Gaslands probably 6, 7 times, something like that. But what always happened is we'd show up to play and only a couple of us even have the rules. So nobody builds the cars in advance. So for the first, I don't know, 30 minutes or something, like we get there, we're frantically building these cars. Well, we're just, they're playing with cars that have nothing modified on them at all. They're like right out of the packaging, okay? Which is okay. It's a fine game like that. It's just, you spend like the first 30 minutes just trying to piece together what kind of a build you're going to do. And invariably, everybody comes up with the same similar things. And I don't mind being creative. I just figured I'm going to start making I'm going to make all these cars, and they're going to be different values. Basically, some 50s, 30s, and 20s. And if you're playing a 50-point game, you pull one out of the 50-point pile, or one out of the 30 and one out of the 20, or something like that, where you get randomly assigned who you're going to play. And and just do it that way. And that way you can just start playing, And because unlike most people that post on the Facebook page for Gaslands, they'll do these awesome builds. And they're like, okay, here's my new car. Can you help me name it? And I'm like, dude, I've named the car before I start building it. That's the fun part. I've named the car and the driver and everything before I start building it, because I build around the theme. And, that's what I'm looking forward to doing. So, anyhow, those 2 vehicles already have names. And they're being built a certain way. But we'll see how that takes off. I wanted to get the ambulance because I just wanted on a whim to go to the stores last weekend, and there's like basically no die-cast cars in stores. Not like there was 2 years ago. So I had to order that through eBay. And, oh well. It happens. You've been getting into basic impetus lately. I read the rules. You know what? I tell you, I was looking at the rules the other day with Mitch, and right off the bat, there's lots of things to like. I know that other people have said they didn't like it because things go a certain way, but I haven't experienced that. I haven't played the game, but right off the bat, the one thing that I don't like about the rules is there's only 3 movement rates. I didn't like that. But I do have them, and I did print them out, and they're beautiful looking rules, and they seem to be a lot more better explained than other rules that we play. But you like the big bases. See, I was going to play it with DVA size stands. So a unit like this in impetus would be 2 across and 2 deep. So it's basically 4 times the size of this. So I was like, well, I could just play basic impetus and have all the ranges and just use this as one unit. Because I don't mind lots of units, lots of troops, but I don't need more reasons to slow down completion of things. And that would do it. That's like, oh, now all of a sudden you need a lot more just to try the rules out. But haven't gotten around to it. There's always something else that steps in the way. I really want to paint. I want to paint things and be motivated to paint things. Playing games, if it was about playing games, I could just play a game on my computer, So I just hadn't gotten around to doing it yet. I've got several rule sets like that I just haven't gotten around to trying. I just don't want to bad enough. Just not my... Just like some people want to play games and they don't want to paint. I'm kind of the opposite. So, but what do you say about Mike Hutchinson's spaceship games? Skirmishers and light cav can move twice and they get to shoot. Yes, as they should. Yeah, as they should. Mike Hutchinson's spaceship rules. Yeah. I think the Gasland games is fun because you got, how you manage the dice. It's all about that. The background fluff story, I think is rather dumb. It doesn't really suit me, but I can already tell you that I'm going to be making for this game I'm going to run. I'm going to be making other teams. Well, you know what? I am going to do some of the team stuff. I'm just going to call them something different. Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with the. I just don't like the names that he picked, and that's just a preference, It owes a lot to DVA, but I like what it does with it. Paint slow because of some injuries, but I like doing both. Oh. Yeah, I'm stiff as hell. We started this week going back to the gym. I haven't been to the gym in 20 years. And I've got muscles that are sore that I haven't used in 20 years. So if I'm moving kind of weird, yeah, that's why. But we've been doing that as a family, and we need to. We need to get out and move more. And anyhow, we'll see how long that lasts. We're doing it month to month. So what else? Oh, naming the team. So right off the bat, I don't know if you've known Gasland. Gasland team is what is it? Like a race team called Miyazaki? Nah, that's got to be the Rice Burners. So I'm gonna have a Rice Burner team where it's all it's all Japanese JDM type vehicles. And I'm looking forward to you don't know what vehicle you're gonna get when you're playing, and you just have to deal with it. Because honestly, the game's a lot of fun whether you win or lose. It doesn't really matter. It's just a crap you get into and just laughing about strange things that you got to do. So, I like the idea that you play immediately, and you got to play with something outside your comfort zone. So, the first game we ever played at Gaslands, we all basically had the same vehicle, and it was boring because of that. So, like, I don't think anybody has ever used a glue dropper. Well, there's going to be a vehicle that has a glue dropper, and then another one that has mines, and another one that has smoke. And it's just, it just depends on what you get handed. And it might not be ideal. It might not be, mini-maxing. It's still going to be points-based through the rule system, but it's not going to be, mini-maxing heaven. And because our group enjoys doing that, fortunately. I think we all do. So, but that's definitely my 2022 goal. By the end of the year, I plan on having... Now, I've built 5 vehicles, but I've spent like 30 hours on each one. I don't have time to do that, And I don't want to spend a vehicle that I spent 30 hours on, that I'm really careful with, and then hand it out for other people to use. Because if something happens to it, that's a lot of my lifetime that I have to spend in repair. So yeah, I've built a few vehicles, but I'm like, okay, well, that was fun. Now I've got to, I need to take some shortcuts. And the first shortcut I'm going to do is I'm not going to take them apart. I'm going to, not drill out the rivets, because that is extremely dangerous. That's like one of the most dangerous things I've done in a long time, is just trying to hold it steady, and hopefully that drill bit doesn't slip and poke yourself. So that's just stressful, and my hobby don't really mix. So we're gonna try this and see if we're gonna build this guy first. We're gonna finish building this particular vehicle, and see how it turns out. I'm sure it'll turn out fine. It doesn't look good now because it's not complete, and it's in different colors and stuff like that, but it'll turn out fine. And if not, we'll just take this stuff off and build it a different way, but anyhow, to be continued. Now is the best time for a health kick. I like how the Osprey games have RPG elements. Even their pike and shot, the commander gets to progress through a campaign. You know what I don't like about the Osprey games? The rule books are too nice. I'm like paranoid of using a book and ruining it. I need to just buy another copy and just get over it. But that's my thing. Everybody has a phobia. Some people don't give a shit. Like when you were in school, people would just like buy a book. It'd be trashed in a week. It's like, I just can't do that. I don't like anything to happen in my books. We all have our things. We all have our hang-ups. But it's a fun game, and there's a lot of moments that involve a lot of humor, and I really enjoy that part of it. I really enjoy that part where you could just laugh about all kinds of crazy stuff that happens to you unintentionally. Although, like I've said before, we should probably rename the game to Watch Luke Crash, because that's really pretty much what it entails if he's on there. I have them on e-reader. You emotionally blackmail my girlfriend to cover the hard copies. Yeah, I just don't want anything to happen to him. But just too nice. What's the other rule book that I have that's gorgeous? I can never remember the name of this rule book. The one that's out of print. Force on Force. It's freaking gorgeous rule book. Like, I can't use that on the, I can't use that while I'm playing it. I mean, hell, the cover even has that, that stitching, where it feels like it's like threading on it. I can't use that and just let that get destroyed. I know. Anal. Yeah, sorry. I take care of stuff. All right. I think I need a thinner brush to do what I'm about to do. So yeah, I've had, what is this? It's going to be like almost a month that I still have the stomach thing. It's less and less each day, but I haven't had coffee in a month, and I don't miss it. I still have a little bit of caffeine, like some tea and stuff, but I don't want to get back on the coffee thing. Not because I have anything against caffeine. I was just tired of the stupid coffee taste. I was just drinking it for like medicinal purposes. Like, okay, I'm going to go online. All right, have some iced coffee so you can stay awake. I don't know. I haven't really... I don't want to get back on the... It dehydrates you so much. You know, so... There's a guy who plays a lot of Osprey games and his channel's great, but he always chucks the book across the table and I die inside. Oh, screw him. Can you tell me who he is so I can subscribe to him and then unsubscribe? I can't do that, you know. I mean, my DBA book, my DBA 3.0, things have happened to it. Nothing big, but, you know, but just throwing a book across the table? Hell no. One thing for sure, I think Anglo-Danes and Ottomans get a fair suck of the sauce bottle and impetus. I guarantee the Mongols are better. Some other armies are unbalanced, though. Well, you know what? I tell you what. What I've actually enjoyed lately, I haven't filmed any of it, but what I've actually enjoyed lately is played some games of DBA or otherwise that may be unbalanced, but we turn around and we play both sides. And I'm actually enjoying that a lot more than playing opens. Because you have some unusual things happen. I don't think this paintbrush is going to take me where I need to go. This thing's all curvilinear point. Let's go over here and see if we got another candidate. Let's look at this guy right here. This guy should do it. Oh, Jesus. No. That thing is massive. Let's take one of these and we may have to trim down the point. That one's massive too. What's wrong with my vision? I can't see over there? I'm looking through the light is what the problem is. How about this one? All right. Make me pull this thing over here. There we go. Those brushes are so big, I need to use them if I'm going to be painting landscapes or something. How's this point look? Yeah, looks doable. All right. So I've enjoyed playing the historical stuff, or, you know, we decide to not try to min-max the matchup. I mean, we've done enough of that. Like opens. I rarely play an open anymore. They just bore me. You know, we've done that before. So... Because I don't want to build more armies that... Well, I like to have them 4 bow, so let me build every army that has 4 bow. Then why even bother painting new armies if they're all going to have a similar troop composition? I want to paint armies that have weaknesses, and then you just take turns playing them, you know? Like whenever I paint old Dracula's army, that army's got some serious weaknesses. And I don't care, because if you're playing like a match pair or something like that, they should be able to do fine against the Turks. The Turks are kind of in the sucky thing too, so. Yeah, but Impetus has no pips. And I think pips is crucial. So, I don't know. It's kind of hard to find a perfect system. It's almost like at that point, it's like, why don't I just make up my own rules? But, don't really have time for that right now. But it is fun to play an army with weaknesses, or an army that maybe isn't matched up perfectly against the other guy, as long as, you know, you take turns playing them, you know, to be fair, you know. Except for the pitchfork war. 37. Every man a pitchfork and turnip to stick into it. You guys would have the degree in DBA. If DBA were played on a grid, I reckon there would be less Snookering around, lining up. Yeah, it's the lining up. I'm not playing another game where you line up perfectly. Do you do that in Impetus? I don't think you do. We've played other games. We've played a game of Maurice. Maurice, you don't have to line up. They manage to do it. You don't have to line up in Armati. You don't have to line up in... What else do you not have to line up in that I played? The lining up is one of the parts that makes the game feel hokey and feel like you're not really playing the period, to me. And it makes it difficult to explain to new people. You know, so... Not playing another lineup game. I'd never played a lineup game before until I played DBA, and I'm like, I just accepted it, you know, because, you know, DBA has a lot of good things going for it. Like, you know, you could finish a game. It's not massive. You know, you don't have to collect 1 million figures. Well, you can. You just need to make it over 1,000 armies, you know, not just 1 million figures for one army. It's got a lot going for it, but. All right, we got somebody else come in. There he is, the Grossman from the middle of the U.S. Welcome, Steve. Does explain lining up better, like it's corner to corner. They do have some activation system, I think. Aha. There's got to be something, so you can't do everything you want all the time. Man, I am sore. I'm sore in muscles I haven't used the last time I went to the gym. That's all right. That doesn't bother me. It's the it's the stomach thing. That's just like, man, I shouldn't have this thing. And it's a lot less than it was in the past. Like, it's not waking up in the middle of the night to it. It's not making it difficult to go to sleep. I feel it occasionally. Whatever. It's just, I should have known. I mean, it's like, here, take this medicine. Well, why is there like 50 freaking pills in there? Well, now I know. Because it's going to take a freaking month to go away. And they did the results, and they still didn't give me the results. The results aren't in. Oh, it's taken a long time. I have a follow-up. And it was supposed to be last week. And they still don't have the results. So everything in this country is running like shit. So I'm sure it's in other places as well. I think I read somebody said that the U.S. Postal Service just wasn't going to deliver to Australia anymore, or something like that. I think that's what it was. I think it was Dirk. Dirk may have posted that the U.S. Postal Service wasn't going to deliver to Australia. I got a friend of mine that was telling me the other day. It's like, well, basically what we're going through right now is what happened in the 70s. I said, right now we're going through the 70s. And of course, I was in the 70s as a kid. I don't remember anything. I was wearing brown corduroys and my mom was dressing me. You know, I didn't know what the hell was going on. Not dressing me, but telling me what to wear. There we go. And I said, well, that's good news. He's like, well, why's that? I said, well, that means the 80s are next, and at least the music will start being worth listening to again. And the other day I dropped him a line and I said, so We're going through the 70s, huh? What year we figure we're at? Are we like at the beginning or somewhere in the middle? And he said 1973. I said, oh, good. Now I just need meds for like 7 years. Oh, man. I went to a store the other day, and it was like a third world country. It was like, 25% of the stock or 30% of the stock was not in the shelves and nobody working there. It's just freaking weird. Just getting into it and liking a lot about it. It seems like it's pretty easily explained. Yeah, I wanted to send some minis to the GM's alcove and they have to wait a while. GM's alcove, old what's his name? Yeah. I haven't watched him in a while. I did last time I listened to him, I was painting a door. And I said, I have to put him on. He's working on his hobby thing. But he's got a weird freaking schedule. He's got a weird schedule. And it's off by an hour. So like for instance, one day he'll start at like 10 p.m., right? And then the next time he paints, he starts at 11. And the next day he starts at 12. He's like off by an hour. Like I don't know. I guess it's probably a good idea because that way you could catch different people around the world, you know. Let's see. You notice that too. Since this virus happened, people have the excuse to slow down. Would swap Nicki Minaj for Bo here, T-Rex for sure. He does good impetus videos. I watched a couple of his just to kind of get the idea, and then I watched his Art de la Guerre. I'll be honest with you, I don't like Art de la Guerre at all. I don't have a problem with impetus. I don't like Art de la Guerre because I think it's just a ripoff of Phil's work, without giving Phil credit and charging for it. If people want to play it, that's cool, but it just seems like it's just not how I would have done it, you know. I'll say it again. You know, if I was going to come up with my own set of rules, I'd probably take from every system a little bit. But you got to give people credit. And I'm not going to charge for them. You know, you can't be like, well, you can't take ideas from people and then charge. I'm not going to charge for it. You know, it's going to be free, you know. And there's nothing wrong with the army lists that are in DBA 3.0. So just say, hey, listen, you could use whatever army list you want. But we think knights should behave like this and cavalry should behave like this and this kind of stuff. And then, go buy the DBA 3.0 for the army list. There won't be any army list in my rule set. But just to blatantly steal like all of his stuff. I don't know if it's steal. But it's like there's a thing in Art de la Guerre that is like the equivalent of like the brilliant generals. And they're the exact same brilliant generals that are in DBMM. It's like blatant. It's like, you know. But the real reason I won't play it is nobody in this area plays it. It does have some of the skirmishers that shoot. It has some interesting mechanisms. But you still have the stupid lining up. And I'm just not playing another game with the stupid lining up. Because I'm tired of explaining it to people that it doesn't make any sense to. It's kind of like, it's kind of like you work at this place, right? And upper management wants you to tell your sub-employees to follow this policy, which you think is stupid, right? But you got to do it, right? Because that's your job. You got to do what your bosses do, and you got to make sure your employees are following whatever silly policy it is. It's kind of like that, right? Except upper management isn't paying you anything. In other words, you're doing it for free. So I'm teaching other people to play this game for free. I don't want to be charged. I don't want people pay me for it. That's not the intention. But I'm doing all this suffering and selling this bill of goods that I don't really believe in. Because, I think that you should be able to not have to line up. I think that skirmishers should be able to shoot at a distance. The distance may be small. It doesn't have to be 3 base widths away. It could be a base width away. It could be half a base width away. Okay? But it needs to be something so that people come off the street and they can understand, like, oh, those guys have bows, but they're just, they shoot at a small distance away, anything that, I could explain to people, it's like, well, that's the rules, but they don't make any sense to me, but that's just how they are. I would change, So, I think everybody has good ideas, There's a lot of good ideas in what's the name of that rules? The thing that they have online, the game online. Not Pike and Shot. The same people that do the Pike and Shot. The one Richard Bodley Scott's game, whatever it's called, the computer game. Can't think of it right now. I have it. It's on my freaking computer. What is it? It has some interesting ideas. There's things about it I don't like. Let me minimize this. Oh, you're not letting me? There we go. Minimize this too. What's it called? It is called Field of Glory. Field of Glory has some good ideas. It has some things I don't like there's no pips. You know? Both you guys are motivating me. That's really what I want to do. I don't want this hobby to die. You know? And, you know, if you watch my stuff and you want to go and play Lion Rampant, I've played a couple games of Lion Rampant. It's a fine game. Hey, you know, this is my therapy. Talking about, I don't get to talk about this with anybody all day long. I need to take care of something, or I'm going to end up destroying this. I don't get to talk about my hobby all day long with anybody. And you know, if you like to do it a different way, you know, maybe you hate 15 millimeter miniatures. Maybe you want to do 28s. Hey, more power to you. You know, I'm not trying to convince anybody you got to do this stuff. I'm just not very useful when somebody says, "Hey, who makes figures in 28 millimeter for this?" I honestly don't know, because I have no intention of playing in 28s. I'm not going to live forever, so therefore I don't have time to paint to put 12, 14 hours into each figure. And I would. That's exactly what I would do. I've got to paint things as good as I can paint them to keep myself happy. Because if I'm not happy, I won't paint anymore. So that's kind of a bummer. But yeah, it's gotten to the point where I don't even want to go to stores anymore. I wanted to go look at Matchbox cars, and I'm like, I just don't want to go to. I just don't want to go to stores. I don't want to. This isn't the world that I grew up in, and it's just annoying. So I'm perfectly fine just going to work, coming home, order things through a delivery service. Not because I'm scared of the outside world, scared of getting some disease. I don't want to interact with this new nonsense that's going on. Like, wake me up when it's over. You know, I just don't think it's going to be over anytime soon. This whole car chip thing. It's a good thing that we got our vehicles when we did, because I don't see any of this stuff going over. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to be realistic. People are like, "Oh, it's going to be over in a month." No, it's not. There's too many people that are fine with it being the way it is. But hopefully, it'd be nice to get an idea, like, how did the hobby do? I mean, did more people come back to the miniatures hobby? At least the hobby people, at least maybe the people that are making figures are having a good time with this. Hopefully, somebody's benefiting from it. Somebody that's good, not people that are up to nefarious reasons. I love 15 millimeter because it seems less fashionable, is therefore cheaper and cheaper. Less fashionable. I don't know anybody doing 28 millimeter DBA. You've rationalized the pile down to just 15s. Gave my 6s to a young gamer. I would do 6s if there was more variety of figures. And I'm not one of those, well, they all look the same at that distance. No, the 6s have a reasonable amount of detail. You could do formations. And you know what I wouldn't want to do? I wouldn't want to do the getting the goop in between the individual figures on 6. That's just, that would be bad. But I like how they look. The supply chain lameness is annoying. Yeah, I don't know if we really know what's going on. I don't know if we know what's going on. And I don't listen to the news. I mean, why bother? But I don't know if any of us have a really good picture of what's happening. I think that we think A is going on and it's Q. You know? I can just tell you the construction industry is freaking booming. Now, there's just a lot of things that just don't add up. You know? There's a lot of things that don't add up. Now we're paying people significantly more than we did 2 years ago. And there's less people looking for jobs. It just doesn't make sense. They can't fill them. I think a lot of it is like, okay, well, we're going to pay people more to work at a, say, Dollar General, you know, a low-end kind of retail type job, minimum wage thing. Oh, we're going to pay people significantly more, right? Okay, well, the catch is, instead of having 4 employees working at a time, now we're only going to have 1. You know, so... But yet those places are still looking for help, so I don't really know what's going on. All I know is in my work, we're booming. And we've been booming since 2012. So... All right. I think we've got about all the accoutrements done on this guy. We're happy with that. We'll at least take a look at that and see how that looks. Let's finish this guy, bring this guy up to the final level, then look at both of them, and then we'll do the horsehairs and that kind of stuff. People want more meaningful work too. I think a lot of folks who were locked down have been a bit affected by it, to be honest. I think it's just shown that a lot of people were just, I don't know. I don't even think about it. So I find it annoying. Like, I leave work and I'm like, let me go pick up something at this store. And I go to the store and I'm like, is this like a third world country or something? And I've been to a third world country. I'm like, what's going on here? Because, you know, at work, it's business as usual. I don't, you know, I'm still living in 2019 at work. You know, or 2018, whatever. But I'll tell you right now, one thing is going to have a big effect on everything else. You let that diesel fuel get out of control, that's going to screw us all. You get that diesel fuel to go up to like $5 a gallon, it's creeping up there. That is going to screw everyone. That definitely affects what I do for a living, because I got to deal with that stuff. But who cares about unleaded? You can control how much you drive, but you can't control how much fuel the supply truck that's bringing your bread is going to consume. And that's just going to be passed on to you as a consumer. Oh, well. Only got about 17 more years to deal with that bullshit, and then I don't have to worry about it. And I can tell you right now, the next 17 years are going to be a hell of a lot more of a pain in the ass than the last 17 were. All right, let's take a look at this, see what we're looking like. Let's get my glasses so I can see what the hell I'm doing. Well, see what the hell I'm doing at a distance, and up close I can't see. No judgment, of course, but hard to motivate people when the media landscape is problems. Yeah, the media those motherfuckers just cause trouble. They want to divide us all. That's why I don't listen to them. I already have strong opinions about stuff. I don't need to. I don't need their input on stuff. Just tell me the news. Oh, they don't do that anymore? Well, I'll shut you down then. Oh, let's get it in the screen here. Here we go. See if we can get the... I think that's good enough for right now. I'm going to paint the tail and the hooves, and I'm just going to move on. I'm just got to... Sometimes less is better. Not that there's anything less, but... All right, let's... Let's do this. This is the old German camouflage black, which is no doubt what I call it. It's SS camouflage black. This is no doubt one of their camo colors on their uniforms. Never painted an SS smock. Honestly, that scares me. I've seen other people do it. The problem isn't the colors. The problem is I'd have to somehow shade it while I'm doing the colors. I don't know. I've seen a couple people do it, and it looks like they pulled it off pretty well, but I don't do that kind of stuff anymore, so I'm not too worried about it. I think I grabbed the wrong one. Here we go. Let's grab this one. But I've never gotten around to doing one of their camouflage things. Just one of those analysis paralysis things. Sometimes you just got to jump in, paint your way out. And then when you're done, you're like, oh, I was all worried about this. I should have just started painting. Durr, you know? It's sometimes you're your own worst enemy. You know, you got analysis paralysis going on. I've been guilty of it. Just start painting and paint your way out. First time I heard analysis paralysis, I'm like, that's perfect. That's the perfect term for that. All the 15 outlets are having sales at the moment. As far as I know, the hobby has done really well during this time. Well, I hope so. At least Battle Valor and Alternative Armies are. Battle Valor. I don't know that I know who Battle Valor is. It might be like fantasy, and that's why I don't know who they are. I know the postage rates across the pond have just gotten stupid. Which is a shame, but not like I need anything soon. I'd still order across the pond if I needed to get something. But just not shipping to a country? I never even heard of that. Especially when they have a monopoly on it. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've ordered something and it was coming with a certain carrier, right? And, all right, it's on time, it's ahead of time and everything. And then you see on the notification, oh, they handed it off to U.S. Postal Service. Oh, there goes the ball game. So all of a sudden, you know, the progress of getting it to me, like, diminishes tremendously. So that's why I'm a big fan of Amazon, man. Amazon usually delivers before, you get it before, like a day or so before they say you're actually going to get it. Frequently. Not if it's like a next day thing, but the U.S. Postal Service, they're late. And then they send you a little update that said you refused it. It'll be delivered the next day. Dude, I've been waiting for it for 2 weeks. Not only you lying to me, you're saying that I told a lie. Oh, hell no. That shit's personal. I am not a fan of the U.S. Postal Service. Moral of the story, monopolies are bad. Consumer needs options. Had some Osprey Napoleonic skirmish rules shredded through the letterbox. Oh. Mr. Dirk, I was just talking about you a little while. Were you the one that was saying that you had something that the U.S. Postal Service would not ship it to Australia? I think it was you. That's just crazy. 3D printers are going to affect 15mm availability and cost. Be interesting to see what is available in the future. I don't know. They better improve their product. I'm not a fan of them. I'm not a fan of the... Well, this stuff's okay. Where's that little resin harpoon that I had? That stuff is okay. I don't know. I like the heft. But the reality is I've got enough lead that I'm good for a while. Absolutely didn't care until someone told me that printing is so good now you don't get mold lines. I hate cleaning up mold lines. I really do. It shouldn't be my responsibility. That's like a shoddy product. That's like saying you need to break in your car. Or there's nothing wrong with that firearm. You just need to break it in. Yeah, there is. It's a piece of shit. You worked in manufacturing and it kind of ruined my health. Oh, man. But I am increasingly more impressed by the detail. Love the metal. Yeah, heavy metal, man. Heavy metal. Heft. Health ruined by manufacturing. Man, that sucks, man. Hope you're okay. Yeah, some manufacturing has some toxic stuff they got to deal with, you know? Yep, sent in August from Florida. Sat in Chicago for 2 months and finally returned to sender this week. That just doesn't make any sense. You just don't want to be a minis factory, and I like opening parcels. Yeah, parcels are fun. I like watching people open things. I like watching unboxings. They're cool. They're cool. All right, I need to lighten this up a little bit more. I remember right after I had placed an order with, I want to say it was Museum. I could be wrong. And Museum is notoriously fast. Like how I did that. Notoriously. Oh, it's something bad. No, fast. That's good. They're notoriously fast. Very quick. It was Museum or Essex or somebody like that. Right from across the pond. And whoever I ordered from were famous for getting it to me in a week. Which Essex, Museum, I want to say Alternative Armies, those three for sure are really fast. About just, oh, you placed an order with us. Let's send it to the guy across the pond, right? We got money in hand. Let's send it out. It's exactly why I like to pay electronically, right? And it sat at Heathrow for over a week. So they shipped it. It sat in Heathrow for a week. And then once it got out of Heathrow, then it resumed its travel. But it ended up being like almost a 4-week. No, it was more than a week. I swear it took like 3 weeks to get it. Luckily, it wasn't something that I was dying to have. You know what? I bet it was. Who's those folks? QRF, 15 millimeter quick reaction force, and it was my Irish. It was my Irish horse that I ordered in far enough in advance. I think that's what it was. I forget. Whatever it was fine. It wasn't the fault of the sender. It was just the people in between. So you'll be okay in the long run. Just problems with spine and hands. No biggie. Has taught me to love ink washes. Always strongly advise people to take care of their spines. Doing even miniature painting. I've got this chair as erect as it'll go. Cause yeah, that's something that happened to me last week. Is I pinched something in my neck for no reason, and or was it week before last? And I got some splitting headaches. Alternative Armies are so generous with the extra figs. I got really good service from them when I was doing my Hungarians. I ordered something from a vendor that I'm probably not going to order from again in the United States, but it was Alternative Armies product, and it was missing a piece, and I contacted them, and they still have yet to contact me about it, reply to my contact, but somehow Alternative Armies got a hold of it, and they sent me a replacement, and I didn't even ask for it, so I'll definitely will be doing business with them again, and that's like, talk about being on the ball, you know. Now they may not be the most exciting figures because they're kind of old school. They've been around for a while. I don't care. I like old school figures. They paint up wonderful. And a lot of people don't want old school figures because they've been around forever. I don't want to paint them. But these old figures look great. Like, look at these. Okay, this guy's been hanging out here way too long. Okay, and he may have some paint chip on him, but this is a guy you guys haven't seen. Oh, here we go. This is one of those Mike Models Renaissance Indian figures. This is a guy that I was going to start building the book 436B, later Muslim Indian, and I got like 2 figures in, and then oh look, something shiny, I went in a different direction. So I got one guy painted, but they paint up just fine. Yes, they're a little rotund and a little dwarfish, but whatever. They've got character, and I'll mix them in with other stuff, so. Best delivery you got was from Victrix. Delivery in New Zealand 11 days later after placing the order. They're old school and I love them, but they always refresh their molds and do resin now too. I didn't know they did resin. Cool. All right, hoof time. Where is the color that we like to use for hoof? I think it's stone gray. There it is. Mike models are brilliant. They're ahead of my time. Now, I didn't know anything about 15s before 2004, because I never did other scales. I either did I did GHQ micro armor and 1/2400 scale stuff and CNC and 1/2400 scale. I did 20 millimeter stuff, 20 millimeter World War II. So the old combat miniatures, and didn't care for SHQ, didn't care for Britannia. Britannia had an extensive line, but he had this very defined face that everybody had. Didn't care for FAA. Yeah, so for 20 millimeter World War II, I only like combat, which I guess used to be called Hotspur. Old whatchamacallits line, my hero. Dave Alsop's figures, and Drew's Militia, which ended up being Battlefield. Those are the two figure lines that I like in that. At the time when I was doing it, AB wasn't really big into them. I know there's lots of people are fans of AB miniatures. They just didn't make very many figures at the time. This was 20 years ago when I was doing that. You just got some Demon World 15s and Alternative Armies Fantasy and some more Saxons and Vikings waiting to land. There you go. You got an invasion a coming. Other than they're small, the Vikings and Saxons by Peter Pig look pretty cool too. And I've never seen anybody paint them up other than the ones that are on their website. And I like Peter Pig figures. But they are small. But I like them. The small figures work really well for the samurai. You know, because smaller, right? My samurai army is made with Peter Pig. Not 3.0 compatible, though. Yeah, just something always gets in a way. I would rather just build an army from scratch than go and retrofit one. And troop type wise, the samurais just aren't very interesting. They just don't have enough variety. For me. Yeah, I guess I never realized when I was doing 20s, there's a lot more 20 millimeter companies I do not like how they look, their figures look compared to 15s. I like just about everybody's 15s. No more figures, I promise. Demon Work Dark Elves I bought definitely have a Japanese influence on their armor and weapons. A bit Sengoku. Yeah, definitely looking forward to doing some Japanese vehicles in Gaslands. I'm a big fan of Japanese vehicles myself, so when you get to go crazy with stuff. All kinds of JDM stuff you can pull off. Rising Sun stuff and all that you can paint on the vehicles. Okay, let's go over and do the hoods over here. And the fan's really loud for some reason. Must be at that speed it doesn't like. Let's see. Let's try 2. Nights are starting to get a little cooler here. Thank goodness. Like, 70 or like high 60s at night. You're vaguely tempted by 1/72 as a cheap alternative for periods. I haven't explored much. Loved them as a kid. I think I love it for World War II because when I was doing it, everything was available in that scale. And not the 1/72 scale plastics, although I had those as a kid. Not because I dislike how they paint. I just don't want to paint plastics. They're bendy and stuff flakes off. I don't want to accidentally bend a figure and then the stuff I painted comes off the figure, and I don't have time to redo things. Once I've done them, I want them to stay done. We always got new things to produce. We don't need to retrofit and fix things that we've already made. All the old Airfix figures, or as they used to be called here in the States when I was a kid. I never saw Airfix stuff in the store. It was all rebranded by a company called MPC. And I bought many of those kits as a kid, as a teenager. They're just Airfix stuff rebranded. Old MPC. I don't know why they didn't bring the Airfix stuff. It's the same freaking molds. They may have even said Airfix on them. They were just branded in different stuff. Blue moons seem a bit above scale, but I don't mind. But splintered light, despite being beautiful sculpts, are too small and delicate for me. I don't like splintered light. I'll be honest with you. When they came out, people were like really big fans. Well, first of all, Splintered Light makes very limited range of figures, and they don't make a range of figures that are a theme that really interest me. I'm not a fan of Dark Ages England. I'm just not. Probably because I'm not English. I'm not there's anything wrong with that. It's just not my background. It's just like somebody from England's probably not interested in the Reconquista. I get it, but they're just weird. They're just like really, they're like all of, and don't get me wrong, whoever sculpts them would do a better job than me. So I'm not saying I'd sculpt them better. I'm not a sculptor, okay, but they're lanky. They have odd poses, and I don't like them. I don't like them. I have a few of them to mix in with other stuff, and I probably still will. But yeah, they're just weird. They're really odd. They're really odd. Little too Dungeons and Dragons, whereas I like fantasy that draws on history a bit more. Mm-hmm. I like. Do I still have that thing around here? I don't know if you watched that. Did I do a review of it? Or was it in the middle of one of my things? That thing that I came across, it was like a fantasy setting for the world of Atlantis. And it was based on, it was fantasy, but it had a lot of historical elements. Where the hell is that? Let me see if I can find it. I don't think it's far away. I think it's nearby here. Because it took me a while to find it. I don't want to go looking for it again. I thought this was the coolest freaking book. Did I misplace it again? Let's see. I don't know where the hell it is. I don't know where the hell it is. I was bringing it with me at all times. Is this still in my backpack? No, I moved it out. Who knows where the hell I put it. Anyways, it was a fantasy setting that had a lot of historical elements to it. And I had bought it, I don't know, like 1986, 1985, a long time ago when I was a kid doing role-playing game stuff. And I colored some of the pictures in there. And that's it. I never used it for anything else. And I opened it up the other day because I was thinking about, well, maybe I could do like, a fantasy setting type, not with hordes of things, because I don't want to play another game that has the whole non-conform, you have to conform to the thing, but some kind of fantasy DBA type thing, and it could be kind of historical or whatever. And I started reading it, and there's a lot of juicy stuff in there. I mean, yeah, there's creatures like orcs and elves and stuff like that, but they're not the predominant thing. Where the hell is that book? Well, now I gotta find it. I'm not letting the book whoop my ass. It can't be far. Found it. Ha! You can't find things if you give up. Persistence is the key to victory. All right. This thing's awesome. This thing is the most awesome thing ever. Not really, but it is. Lexicon, Atlas of the Lost World of Atlantis. And this was published like in 1985. And I believe it's Bard Games. And I think they re-released this several years later. Because I wanted to go look for it. Like, this thing's out of print. But it has all kinds of lands and different peoples and stuff like that. And let's see if there's one of the whole world. And I'll show you what I think is really cool about it. There was a fold-out map in it, okay? But here you can see what the world is. And this is the world of their world of Atlantis. Let's get this over here. This way. It is so hard when I want to move something to the right, I got to move it to the left on the screen. There we go. All right, so you can see there's some similarities to our own, to Earth. Like you've got, Jesus, you got South America over here, and you got North America here. This is Atlantis, this little island here. And you've got Europe, here's Scandinavia, and things like that. Africa here, there's an inland sea in Africa. So there's some similarities. And what's cool about it is you'll find Viking-looking guys up here in Scandinavia, and you'll find sub-Saharan type African troops here in Africa and things like that. And it's really cool. There's Gorgons and Amazons and all that kind of stuff. Plus, some places, I think like France is like the land of dragons, stuff like that. It's not called France. It has another name for it. But it's really, really cool. So if you're looking for a fantasy setting, I recommend this a lot. And there's, descriptions of different, like Avalon is like England, and it says that they all only have knights, that kind of stuff. There's some interesting stuff in there where you could create like army lists and stuff like that based on a fantasy type setting with some historical flavor in it. Let's see. I'm giving mine to someone who's really enthusiastic about them, but I like my guys a little sturdier. Your Atlantis RPG fluff. Yeah, man, be a sweetheart to me because I'm sure I would have enough spare lead for you. Have a couple of small fantasy bands down the line. By sweetheart, I mean this. Does Lycan like or dislike spray varnish? I don't know. You got to try it. I wouldn't do it. I think that lichen in the wild dries up extremely fast. Like you go on a walk and like, oh, that's some cool moss. I'll make some trees out of that. You bring that, you pull it off the tree. In about 2 days, it's brittle as hell, and it just falls apart like coral. It just falls apart to pieces. So the stuff you buy in the stores has all kinds of preservatives, coloring, and stuff like that, and stays moist for a long, long time. I think that if you spray that, it's going to make it brittle and probably fall. I wouldn't spray lichen. I really wouldn't. Unless you sprayed like watered down Elmer's glue, because it's kind of flexible. But I probably wouldn't spray lichen for some reason. The Postal Service ever starts up again, send you a few elves and orcs. No, please do not send me any figures. I'm good. I don't need any figures. I appreciate it, but no, I'll never get around to painting them. I just got to realize that this is what I'm gonna do. I'm like, I can do this, and I'll try doing some Gasland vehicles and anything more than that. I'm just not going to get around. But thank you very much. But you're just wasting your time. There was a miniatures manufacturer. Was he a sculptor? No, he's a mold maker for one of the manufacturers who made figures that I really liked, and he was willing to send me a bunch of these figures if I would paint them. And I think he wanted me just to keep them and use them for my games and take pictures of them, which I'd be willing to do. But they were in 28s. I'd never get around to painting them. You know, I just got to be realistic. I don't want to waste people's time and money and effort and stuff like that. But I appreciate it. But I'd be willing to ask. I can answer all your questions, and you don't have to pay me anything. And unlike a lot of people that answer questions, if I don't know the answer to something, I'll say I don't know, which is what a lot of people don't do. We don't all have the answers. My heroes this week are snake men and dog men for some reason. Battle Valor are like $6 a pack of 8 fantasy at the moment. I went nuts. Battle Valor. I'm going to look that up because, I love surfing figures. Don't need to buy any, but Battle Valor. Okay. When it comes to non-chaos humans, I would just use historical dudes. It makes sense. Yeah. This answer was worth 1 goblin. It was worth 1 booing goblin. My gold line tip was golden. Oh, you mean about using the back side of the X-Acto knife? I didn't know that. I've been building plastic models. Well, I hadn't built any in 20 years, but I didn't know that. Use the back side of this to take a... For those of you guys that don't know, I don't know if there's any mold lines on here. But if you got something that has a mold line, I'd always use this front and you dig into it. Just use the back side. And I got that idea from some hobby guy. I'm like, I always like watching videos like, wow, it was right there in front of my nose. The back side never wears out. Yeah. That's how we keep from going into another dark age. Share information with each other, right? If you don't share information, one guy has all the answers, dies, and it's over. Go back to having to invent the wheel. All right, we're going to leave these guys as is, and we're going to spray them and see how we like them, okay? All right, we got to paint the bottom of this guy. We're going to leave him alone. This guy we got to do some flesh on him. And then we're going to give him some kind of, I don't know where we're going to go with him. Let's just start painting flesh on him. Let's flesh him out. Let's flesh this guy out. All right, let's get our usual suspects, which is red leather, sunny skin tone, which I think I've finally gotten around to being able to say it. I used to say scunny skin tone. You made my life easier because I have crazy joint pain and mold lines are the motivation killer. That was easily worth an elf skirt. Maybe I want an elf without a skirt? Just kidding. Remember back in the 80s, they used to sell all these figures, and they were in some weird scale, like 40 millimeter or something like that. And they were always advertised in like modeling magazines. So you'll pick up like military modeling or something like that, you had all 1/35th scale stuff in it and all that good stuff and airplanes and all that. And there'd be some kind of advertising in the back for these lewd figures, okay? And they didn't show you what they looked like, but they would describe what positions they were in. You know, they were female figures in, you know, in lewd positions, and that just reminded me of that. An elf with no skirt. And they had some kind of a fancy name for Harley's Harlots or something like that. It wasn't something like that, but it was something like that. It just wasn't that name. They were like in 40 millimeter. There was some weird scale, so some pervert could paint one figure. You know, you don't have to be a pervert, but not exactly playing a war game with nude girls. You know what I'm saying? It's like all armor class. What would that be? 10? So Tony, red pill me about the Amorites. Enemies, terrain, composition. Well, I'm glad you elaborated on that because red pill just doesn't do anything for me. I've only seen that movie one time and that was enough. That's not my... They didn't make that movie for me, for sure. Enemies, terrain, composition. Disappointingly enough, they don't make any enemies that you would know of. They so the Amorites apparently were nomadic folks that lived in the desert areas between Palestine, the Levant, and Babylonia. And they just, as far as they know, they just decided to go out and strike out and started taking over places and like living in the city, which happens to a lot of conquerors. You'll have people that are like, even the Mongols went and, you know, after they conquered China, they're like, you know, we're kind of tired running around in these damn yurts and drinking mare's milk. How about, I kind of like this whole eunuch with the whole harem type thing going on. So the same thing happened with the Amorites. So technically, you know, the Babylonian guy everybody's heard of. Let me get rid of this notification down here. The Babylonian guy everybody's heard of is Hammurabi. Hammurabi apparently was an Amorite ruler. So one of the dynasties that ended up becoming Babylon was originally Amorites. But they basically were guys that just were, as far as we know, were living in the desert and just got tired of, you know, doing whatever you do in the desert and said, you know, we're going to go and take over some places, and just kind of went like that. And they started moving in after the... it's funny, the guys that they started right after was the army that Joe has, which is the third dynasty of Ur. Amorites roll right into that, but they're not enemies of each other. And they have a list of like 12 enemies or something like that, but there's nobody that there's no major powers you would have heard of. I mean, if I list them, you might have heard of them, but in the book, but they're not, you know, it's not like Assyria or Babylon or you know, anybody major. Terrain composition, I believe they are arable because it pretty much represents them after they've already established dynasties, not like running around the desert. So they are an arable army. They're aggression 2, and their composition, they can have a light chariot general or a solid bow general. So I'm just going with a light chariot general. I don't mind having a bow general, but he'd be the only bow element in the whole army. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Plus he's slow, so everybody would end up having to protect his ass. You know, he'd be a liability. So light chariot general, 5 fast blades, 2 skirmishers, and 2 fast auxilia, and they can have another, and then they can have 2 of the elements that can be either solid auxilia, fast auxilia, or solid hordes. So I've got solid hordes, I've got solid auxilia. So they'll either go into one of those. They'll either run the solid hordes. I just didn't have the figures to do another two fast auxilia. That's pretty much the army composition. So they hit pretty hard, but they're damn near unarmored looking. So they're not real exciting to paint, but I think that they turned out okay. I mean, they're not very inspiring looking figures if you don't paint them. You're like, oh, these guys, they don't have anything to them. But we gave them some character. And they performed okay on the battlefield. Celtic warriors are fine as long as they're not super excited to be there and keep their shields up. So are they Bronze Age Near Eastern? But they are Bronze Age. Yeah, they run like 1700. I'm going by memory, so if I got it wrong, I got it wrong. 1700 through like 1500 BC. So, Norse Irish made me love Auxilia. Imagining my ancestors as Currans with javelins and big shields. That Norse Irish list is just really, really weird in DBA. A lot of solid Auxilia. I'm not Irish, but I love my medieval Irish. Love that army. Love those guys. It doesn't matter. What you are has no impact on whether you like the army. You know. I love my Asian armies, and I'm not even close to being Asian. Doesn't matter. Just play in the army. I guess there's some armies that some people wouldn't play based on who they are because they didn't like them. I don't think there's any of them that... There's nobody that like... I'm not playing those guys because I don't like them. Like, I'd build a Mongol army, and I'm not very fond of the Mongols. I know lots of people are big fans of the Mongols, but I'm just not a fan of people that go in and just destroy shit like ISIS, you know? Just take people over, but don't destroy freaking knowledge and shit, you know? That's not cool. So I'm not a fan of people that do that. I don't care what the reasoning is. We know such little about what happened, even though it wasn't really that long ago. And to go and destroy what little we know is just a disservice to so many people that have suffered and stuff like that. Could at least tell their story. Not a Mongol fan. Sorry. Doesn't mean I wouldn't build a Mongol army or that I wouldn't mind playing them. Just saying. I don't want to move next door to me, that's all. At the time, they were a hit-and-run army with low-level slingers and bowmen, mid-level javelin men, and then armored nobles in the Viking style. Yeah. It does help if that's your lineage. I enjoyed the hell out of painting my Irish, and I'm not Irish. So. Nor do I drink like an Irishman. Not that I have a problem with drinking. St. Patrick's Day always seems to be the same. The one day that I can't, because it doesn't fall on a certain day of the week. It falls on a date. So, if it falls like on a Tuesday, yeah, nothing's going to happen on that day. It's got to fall on like a weekend. But reading about the Irish is where I came across the fact that the Irish color is not green. The Irish color is actually yellow because it comes from their background of their gods, of the pre-Christian stuff that they had. Yellow was kind of like a big deal for them. And I was reading that Henry VIII, when he was doing his campaigns in Ireland, he banned the Irish from wearing yellow. And so that's where they kind of picked up the whole green thing. And I started thinking about it, and I start realizing, that's probably where the whole thing of the yellow being the color of cowardice comes from. I bet that's all where it comes from, is the English going into Ireland, and since they like to wear yellow, and it wouldn't stand still, kind of like Sylvester and the kangaroo, right? Sylvester always wants the kangaroo to stand still, and he's always jumping all over the place. because it wouldn't sit in one place and doing hit and run stuff. They probably labeled them as cowards, and that's where yellow became the color of cowards. I'm extrapolating, but that kind of makes sense because you always think, like, why the hell is yellow the color of cowards? Why? There's nothing wrong with yellow. So, find out the fighting style was so Renaissance. I'm not French, but I love the ordonnance. Huh. The only figures I have now actually going to use for Oathmark. Oh. I love my Burgundians. Holy shit, those guys are. I've had to earn every one of their battles, but the other French. I had a friend of mine who's hated anything French. I don't know whether a Frenchman had took a crap in his shoe or something like that. Because there's bad people from every country, And it'd be like if you judged everybody in the United States from people from New York. I'm sorry. I have nothing to do with those people up there, okay? So, I get it, There's decent people everywhere. But this guy had an incredible dislike for anything French. Except medieval French army. He liked them. He liked the army, even though he couldn't stand the French. Oh, man. Yeah, I'll never forget. He played them because they were good, because he liked their troop composition or whatever, they were good, but didn't like anything else French about them. Burgundian is blue and white. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Some red thrown in. Yeah, those guys kick ass for me. I'll tell you what, though. I had to pull all the stops in using them, man. A lot of their troop types are really powerful, but you got to play keep away with them because they're also very brittle. So you got to keep those bowmen protected. It's an interesting problem. Well, the army I'm never going to build is 100 Years' War English because Mitch has it and Luke has the army. I think Marty has them too. Like, there's no reason to build that army. Now, if I was English and I really wanted to, yeah, but I'm not, and it makes sense to build an army that we can all benefit from having, instead of, oh, here's a third one of something, So. Da-da-da-da-da. Clay S., welcome. Evening. Since everyone's picking your brain, yes, always pick my brain. It keeps me engaged. Keeps me from going, well, nobody's here. Have a good evening. We'll see you next time. By all means, always pick my brain. Since everyone's picking your brain, what do you think of the 100 Years' War armies? Are they good matchups, not one overpowered, or how about the Reconquista armies matchups? I think Reconquista is balanced really well. I think one thing that I think Reconquista is balanced really, really well. You got feudal Spanish versus Andalusian. They're matched pretty well. The feudal Spanish and the fanatic Berbers, or what do they call them now? They call them Islamic Berbers. That's the matchup I had. That's the first matchup I did. Those balance up really well. The Spanish could not, and I'm talking the B list, so we're talking El Cid time period. The Spanish did not have a shooting element before. In 3.0, they can have one. If you had a lot of shooting elements against either the Andalusian army or the Berbers, you would be really unbalanced, I think. But those balance pretty well. You start getting the later stuff. The feudal Spanish C is quite a bit more powerful than the B, and probably still okay against the Berbers. Later on, Granada and the medieval Spanish, the Granada army is really, really interesting because it can have a fair amount of fast crossbowmen. But I guess they're still okay. I'm a big fan of Reconquista stuff because that's my background, obviously. So you know how you guys like Dark Ages England. I like Iberian stuff. But 100 Years' War. So the problem with 100 Years' War is I don't think they're balanced really well. I think that the English have too many bowmen, which means they have a heck of a lot of guys to protect. So the bowmen have two different issues. They're extremely powerful against mounted knights, but if they dismount, then they got problems of keep away. So I think that, and depending on which French army you're doing, some of them can dismount and some of them can't. I think it's more unbalancing if you're playing a French army that can't dismount, because mounted knights really just can't do jack against bowmen. And I'm just talking about in the open. And this is against longbowmen, because if they go into close combat and they tie, the knights get quick killed by the longbows. I think that it's more balanced if the French dismount, and then the English have to play a game of keep away. You could combine on a blade element and kill it. I mean, that's, you get 3 shooters at it and it's a 2-2. Okay. That's definitely, you could definitely make some progress there. It's not as good a matchup as you would think it would be. So I don't recommend that. If people say, hey, I'm just getting in it, I'm looking for match pairs, I wouldn't recommend people do those two, because I think that, they're not as well balanced as other matchups. I think Rome and Carthage is better balanced. I think the successor guys going at it, I think those are really well balanced. I think the Reconquista stuff is pretty well balanced. So there's my 2 cents. But if that's the matchup you want to do, it's not like it creates bad games. It creates a lot of the same stuff, I think if you play a game that has a lot of shooters, it kind of ends up being a one-trick pony. And I'm saying that from somebody who likes a lot of shooting. But if you have more than 4 elements that are shooting, it's pretty much going to be your go-to strategy. Unless you're fighting somebody that just doesn't work against. So, actually looking at 172nd El Cid box set today. Mr. Simpson, welcome. Yeah, I don't mind people picking my brain. That keeps me engaged. Just being silent is like, okay, well, I'm over here all by my lonesome, All right. Like, if I don't get this guy finished tonight, okay, I don't get this guy finished tonight. I only have this guy to do in, like, the lower extremities of the general, and these folks are done. Of course, we still have to do the camels, or the baggage element / camp. It's going to serve as both. Do you know a camp could be as small as 40 by 20? I mean, that's, like, ridiculous. That's like trying to play keep away. Like, I'm making it really small because I know you're going to go after it. Yeah, you're welcome, Clay. I've said in the past I need to do a medieval French army just because I would enjoy doing all the research on the heraldry. I like that kind of thing. And I can make silly pretend French voices when I play the French. No. Who doesn't like that, right? But it's an army I've seen on the battlefield many, 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 many times. So it's not something that I'm dying to do. I'd much rather do these Amorites, which I've never seen anybody field. You know, if you have an army that you've seen multiple times, there's not a big incentive for me to go out and build it. When there's so many armies that you haven't seen. All right, let's paint. And this guy has some clothes, but he has a significant amount of flesh showing. Ooh. No, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, keeping me on task. And there are a ton of people that make figures for 100 Years' War. I mean, like, everybody makes figures for 100 Years' War. I know that one figure company that was really, really popular was Corvus Belli for 100 Years' War. Towards the end, I think the last line they came out with was 100 Years' War stuff. And I'm not a huge fan of Corvus Belli, but mainly because of their poses and their cheekbones. They have really strong, dominant cheekbones, which are okay on some figures, but when everybody in your army has that, it's kind of like, how inbred exactly are your people? You know, but but they were a really popular figure line. And I want to say somebody picked them up and is doing them now in resin. I believe that's the case. Inspector Clouseau. Is that the BEM? Does your dog bite? That's that's not my dog. Oh man, classic stuff. Classic stuff. The fights with Kato. Classic stuff. Oh man. Probably wouldn't be allowed these days. Well, depends who's in charge. People need to laugh at stuff again. What did I go watch the other day? Oh, the new Chappelle special thing. Well, I'm a big fan of his. I've been watching him forever. I'm like, I better watch his special before he gets taken down. That's how things are. They take things down. I grew up, you could make fun of everybody. And I kind of live my life that way. It's not serious. I just like to laugh about everything. You know, I'm playing my Asian army. Sometimes I say things in an Asian accent. Is it over the top? Yes. Do I hate Asian people? Hell no. That's the time and the place for that, you know? That's what I grew up with. I'm taking that stuff to the grave, you know? Here we go. You know, I haven't seen Doctor Strangelove. You know why I haven't seen it? It's black and white. I know. I need to see it. I need to see it. And I won't be impressed probably because I waited too long to see it. But I do need to see it. I know. But it's black and white. I have a... You know how some people don't like foreign movies or whatever? I like foreign movies. I just don't like black and white movies. So, I know. I'll get around to seeing it. So... You like Chappelle, but I'm bored of the culture war. Yeah, it's going to stay here for a long time. Blue hairs can have been this reality. I've been painting another one in the garage. I don't know what that is. Blue hairs can have been this reality. I've been painting. I like all that stuff. I like the one I really like is I like Daniel Tosh. I like Daniel Tosh. And one of you guys recommended me that I would like whatchamacall, and I do, Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr's hilarious. But that's the kind of humor that I like. I like that nothing's off limits and you say something that might bother people, so you pour gasoline on it. And it's all bullshit, you know? Nobody's, you know... It's just an act, you know? But that's the kind of stuff that I like, you know? I like the Cards Against Humanity kind of stuff, you know? Oh, well. Everybody has different kind of stuff. I happen to like ethnic humor. Humor based around ethnic groups. I don't really care for everything being extremely graphically sexual. That's like everything it seems. That's like the only thing that people can do now. And like that's just like crude, way over the top, like, you know, way too much, you know. Jimmy Carr's laugh is a doorway to a demonic portal. It's weird. It's weird. So I was watching Chappelle the other day, and the one thing that struck me is one thing that I like about his delivery is that he occasionally will say something and he gets himself laughing and he kind of pretends like he walks off his own stage and comes back to compose himself. And I like that because he's having a good time. I don't like these comedians that have a totally dry delivery and never laugh about any of their material. I mean, I can't do that. So I like people that are enjoying their own material that they're creating, you know? I don't know. There's enough different variety for different folks, but yeah, laughs weird. Something like that. I don't know. You know what really surprised me? I was watching Chappelle the other day and I pulled up something. He said something that made me think about him. I know what it was. He sounded like really old. He sounded like his voice sounded very gravelly. And I'm like, I wonder how old he is. And I'm like 3 years older than him. 2 years older than him. And I'm like, damn. Oh well. I'm getting experienced. Red Fox was the man. I didn't watch a whole lot of stuff with him. But yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, they couldn't show that show now. People would have a cow. People would have a cow. People need to loosen up, man. We need to laugh at ourselves and get along instead of pointing fingers and blame others. I showed my daughter about a year ago a video of some of that stuff that Don Rickles used to do, and she just died laughing. That was good stuff. That was good stuff. Oh well. Are the girls home, or was that the ice machine? The late great Sean Locke, when he came up with Nazi Island as a new Jurassic Park, saying what could go wrong, offended everyone. I'm going to look that up. But see, that's what it is. You should just offend everybody and just move on with it, you know? It's just an act, and you just need to laugh about it. Sean Locke. Okay. Good. We all need a good laugh, man. It's the best therapy. Painting's the best therapy. Then laughing. You could laugh while you're painting, you know, but man, sore tricep and painting. Ouchie. Yeah, just a sign that I should have been doing this earlier. Sean Locke. Yeah, I always liked Carlin too. Carlin, the way he used logic in his definitions of things. It made sense. Something like that. I can't get my I'm not I can't do those high pitched things. Sorry. Thanks for the input on How Yours War. All right, man. Good night. Also check his tiger who came for a pint. Ah. The tiger who came for a pint. All right. The tiger who came for a pint. The other guy that was really funny, and I forget which stand-up routine he did it, was Russell Peters. He's the Indian guy who's Canadian. And, of course, he speaks perfect English. But he does his Asian accents that are just freaking just roll into a ball laughing. They're just spot on hilarious. I don't remember which one he was, but he did this Chinese. His Chinese voice was just freaking hilarious. And I forget which one of his stand-ups. But I can't have my daughter watch it because he does nasty sex stuff sometimes. So, that's my girlfriend gets upset by his laughter. I've been chasing her to laugh this whole time. Nice. True love. Time to do some gardening. Oh, man. You could just poison them, and then you won't have to do them. I wouldn't like gardening. Unless you did it in like a tiny little pot or something like that. I wouldn't mind growing like tomatoes or basil or mint or, stuff that I'm going to like use. I guess you would use all of them. Or you'd probably talk gardening about like actual plants that you don't eat. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's not my thing. Dropping off the chat to buy 170 seconds Moors versus Spanish. Why am I like this? You could just watch an unboxing video. Oh, hold on a second. I'm getting a text. Bear with me for just 1 second. Question mark. Hopefully I won't have to cut off, but we'll see. Let's put this away just in case. Okay. Never mind. I'll be right back. I need to grab something from the front door. I'm going to go get a refill and use a little boy's room. So I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry about that. Oh. I can't do it. I can't do it. Can't get my voice that high. Sorry. All right. Let's lighten this up a little bit. Let's unopen this. Man. Nothing's worse though. Painting after you mow the lawn. Can't do it. I'm like bouncing all over the place. Funny, caffeine never did it to me. Never had any issues with jittery and painting. It wasn't a problem. Speaking of 172nd thing, you could spend a lot of time on this one site called Plastics Toy Soldier Review. There's all kinds of stuff on there. Like it'll tell you manufacturers and it'll show you like pictures out of the box and it'll rate them basic on different different things. George Carlin was man. Yeah, he was great. He was great. Plastic Toy Soldier Review. You can find all your old Airfix figures on there. Or those Airfix figures were well sculpted. And a couple of them had some inaccuracies or whatever. I remember the German infantry thing. There was a submachine gunner in the German infantry. It had some make-believe kind of freaking gun. You know, and a couple of things are inaccurate, but for the most part, they had good posing. And I remember having the Desert Rats and the Africa Corps and good stuff. Flamethrower. There was never couldn't get enough flamethrowers as a kid, right? There's a flamethrower guys. I want more of those guys. These guys are really powerful. Yeah, to get within range. I always hated as a kid getting some figures that were always in that pose, like surrendering. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with these guys now? You're gonna give me some figures with rifles, and this guy's throwing his hands up. Like that's useless as a kid. Man, a lot of notifications and shit. I got time for that. We're making our own content. Leave me alone. All right, this guy's got a battle sarong of some kind. How long will we be on? 2 hours? 2 hours, 9 minutes. Okay. Yeah, it's been pretty productive for me. Sometimes slack off and can't seem to get things done sometimes. We'll use this. And we got any more of that SS brown around here? It's all the way on the other side. We can harvest that and use that as the darkener. Let's lighten this up a little bit more. We're going to have to give this guy some kind of a stripe or something like that, because he's not... this guy's riding... He's driving the chariot of the general, so he's not definitely not towards the bottom of the food chain here of Amorite society, you know? So I'm sure he can afford a stripe or two. Not sure what the going rate on stripes are in Amorite society, but I'm sure he can afford it. So just for the record, I am going to put reins on these. So we've already drilled out both of these guys' hands, this particular guy, and we're going to run the thread through there. And I've done this before. It's actually not as difficult as you think it is. It's not going to go exactly where the reins go on the actual horse, because that would mean you'd have to like drill into the horse, because some of it goes into like the muzzle area. So we don't want to do all that. That's extreme. But we are going to put some rope on there so it looks like, you know, he's not just holding his hands out in the middle of it. And it's like I find it, I don't like it when the chariot is just kind of doesn't have any reins. I like to put some reins on the chariot. So it's not too difficult to do. It just takes a little bit more patience. It's a hell of a lot easier than threading one of the all of the threads for like one of those GHQ 1200 scale sailing ships. I did one of those one time. I spent like 24 hours painting that thing. And we're going to do a game of it. And I needed the last minute thing. Everybody needed to bring one ship, and we're going to play a game of it. And a friend of mine had come up with some rules for it. We were going to play like on a Sunday or something like that. This is a long time ago. This is probably 1996, something like that. And I hadn't gotten mine done. And I stayed up all night, damn near all night. I worked on it so freaking long. And I invented like new cuss words. It was a really unpleasant experience doing it. That was also a long time ago, so I would have had less the kind of patience that I do now. I'd be able to handle it. But regardless, I played the game on Sunday morning. We showed up to play the game. Absolutely hated the game. Never played the game again. Never used the ship again, other than the one time. It was one of those games, like we played a Civil War game recently. Well, not recently, but several years ago. I played it with Mitch. And it was one of those games where there's no opportunity fire. And you shoot at the beginning of the phase or the movement afterwards. It was one of those type things where you weren't an arc at the beginning, then you did your movement, and you weren't an arc at the end, but you would have been somewhere in the middle, so you don't get the fire. Well, that's not fun from a person's playing thing. You never get to shoot, because you can't stop the turn in the middle of the thing. So I believe it was something like that with my ship in that Ship of the Line game, and I'm like, well, that's just freaking hokey as shit. I'm not playing this again. But I've never really been a fan of that period. I've never been a fan of that period because I feel like every ship looks the same. You know, talking about like Napoleonic ship of the line type stuff, you know. They're way too similar to each other. Probably more than any other period. I'd say even more than like if you were doing triremes or something like that. Just not my thing. God, I want to stop. But now I'm like, there's so little left. Yeah, we'll pick it up in the morning. I'm not going to spray tonight anyways. I'll spray in the afternoon. Anyhow, so thanks for coming by and checking out the parts here we have of the Amorites. Yeah, so we got to finish this guy and then do his skirt. And by that time, it'll be sun up and we can spray paint. But this is what we got. This is the light chariot for the Amorites. Good old Essex miniatures. Thanks for stopping by, folks. Hopefully kept each other entertained and for a couple hours. And we'll catch you guys tomorrow morning. Same bat channel. See ya.